Hey guys, as you may know, Student Council is doing master classes for every single art area to help cope with the quarantine. So for my art area, I'm in creative writing. My name is Lakshmi, and so I'm going to be doing the creative writing masterclass. And really what it's going to be are some fun prompts that people can do at home and that we can do no matter what, and that can hopefully give you guys a sense of normalcy despite everything that's going on and help document this history that we're living in, because I think it's really important. It's an important way to cope by actually addressing what's happening, but doing it in a way that we can enhance our creativity. And anyone can do this anywhere. You don't need any special tips or tools. All you really need is a computer or a pen and paper to do this. And I hope it's something fun and something relaxing, but also something that helps you deal with this in a creative way. So a little disclaimer before we begin, I want to stress that while this is called like a master class, there is no really real way to master creative writing. As with any art area, there's like so many different directions you can go, and it's really up to you. If you think that your piece is polished and good, then that's what you think. It's your instinct above all else. But I hope that these prompts can kind of help jog your creativity, and really they're supposed to be fun over everything, so don't worry about revising it or making it polished and perfect. Just have fun with it. And these revision tips, while I find them really helpful and other people do as well to make your piece a little bit better and a little bit more unique and creative, again, you don't have to worry about that. You don't necessarily need to follow them to master this. These are just some fun things that I thought I would share with you guys during this tough time. So I do want to stress that it isn't a big deal if you don't follow this, and really, like, you can take these prompts any way you want. It doesn't have to be a poem, it doesn't have to be a short story, but it can be a hybrid of the two. It can be a script, a screenplay. You can even take these prompt ideas and put them in your art areas if you want. I just think they're really helpful for kind of getting your creativity going. So I'll be explaining more about the first prompt that we're doing in the next clip. So in this masterclass, we're going to be doing 3 prompts, and the first one is one I really enjoyed and I had a lot of fun with, and I extended on it out of school because I really got a good narrative out of it, and that's called the emoji poem prompt. So it sounds really fun, but you can honestly take this in a serious direction or in a fun direction. So there's so many different ways you can go with this. So basically, the premise of this emoji poem prompt is that you're given a set of emojis. I'll provide them in the next clip, and you are supposed to write a piece. It can be a poem, a short story, whatever you want, and you have to integrate those objects or those emojis, whatever they are, into your piece. And a little extra thing that you can do, an extra challenge, is you have to like integrate them in that order, which is what I did, and I thought I got an even more complex and in-depth narrative out of my piece because I was forced to follow it in that order. And you don't have to. You don't even have to include all the emojis if you don't want to. I just think it's a nice challenge, and it does make your piece a little bit more unique, and while it is a little bit more difficult, I think it makes your creativity even that much more energized, if that makes sense. So here are the emojis you can use. This is the one that we used in our poetry class, and the mask emoji is purely coincidental because it's before coronavirus became a big thing, so you can go from top to bottom, bottom to top, or in any order you want to. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys an example of some of the emojis I incorporated into my poem. So this is actually the second part of the poem that I did, and it doesn't make as much sense without the context of the first part, but I hope it gives you an example. I just thought I most easily incorporated the emojis in this one, so hopefully this can give you some inspiration if you're looking for anything. So it goes, I think our hearts are two opposites. The metaphor isn't perfect. We are not a yin and yang or a tango that turns 2 people into one. He is not the lock to my key, with grooves so perfectly forged that he's the only one able to unlock my heart, or whatever their songs in the club told me long ago. No, we are more like 2 mailboxes, and that's the second emoji. One is closed with the red flag up. The message has been sent. Stay away from me. The other is open, forever brimmed with love letters, ready to be carried off by messenger bird. I can't remember who is what mailbox. Maybe we are both. It doesn't matter. Not really. Either way, each mailbox has a red flag. And then it goes, maybe we are 2 rolls of film, and then it so on and so forth. Hey guys, we're on to the second prompt, and I'm wearing a different shirt because it's a different day of the week. So I hope you guys enjoyed the emoji poem prompt. The next prompt we have is something that I did in my ancient text class, and we actually did this after the quarantine, so it's really easy to do when you're in your home. In fact, it's probably easier to do when you're at home. It's called the Cornell box prompt. So I encourage you to look up Joseph Cornell boxes online just to get a little bit more inspiration if you want to, and I'm going to show you guys the box I made and then explain how you can turn this into a writing prompt or any prompt you want. So this is my Cornell box. I found a shadow box in my house, but you don't have to use a shadow box. You can use like a shoebox, a suitcase, even just lay things out on a towel. And the premise is pretty simple. All you do is collect objects around your house. As you can see, I collected like a glass dolphin, this box, this like antique telephone thing, and literally like an American Girl doll too. So like you can do whatever you want. They don't even have to be objects. They can be little printouts. Like for example, I printed out this picture of a flower and all of these pictures. My theme was beauty trends over time. So I have a picture of a woman dyeing her teeth black and those corsets that women used to wear to make their waist smaller and all of that type of stuff. But yours doesn't have to have a distinct theme or like an idea that it's going by. The objects don't have to be connected. They can just be things of sentimental value or things you found aesthetically pleasing. And then you're just going to write some things about them. So I also pressed some flowers and put them in a book and then printed out some pictures. And that's the main premise of the Cornell box. It's a really simple idea, but I think it's great for doing at home because you can kind of explore your house a little bit more and also have fun with what you're doing. So as for your responses to the objects, people went a lot of different ways with this. Basically what you write are little vignettes, which are just short descriptions of what you write and then of what your objects are, and they're little snapshots. Some people put a storyline into it, some people wrote about who owned these objects. Personally, I stuck to the theme of beauty, as I said before, so I wrote about how beauty is kind of manifested in these different objects. But really you can go any way with this. You can write a poem, a short story, or write what most people did is write little descriptions of every box but make them sound a little poetic or make them have a storyline through them. And even you can even write about how they relate to you as a person and have a personal effect to it. So there's not really one way to go about this, but I think you can have a lot of fun with this and help kind of jog your creativity and even take this to other art mediums. So I just wanted to give you guys one of my examples of a vignette if you're kind of having trouble of what I'm saying when you write like a vignette or a response to your objects. So I was again focusing on beauty. One of my pictures was of the flower nightshade and I had a stone paired with it and a purple flower. So I said, beauty is the nightshade she put in her eyes to make them bigger, to make her pupils the size of porcelain dinner plates she'd cleaned with delicate hands after supper. She wants to look innocent, like a fawn always poised to leap. Is it because the men like women with big, watery eyes so that they can see their own bearded reflections in their blue pools? Better to see themselves than whatever sad, cruel soul is hiding behind those long lashes. Or maybe it's because she wants to be deadly, like the nightshade she puts in her eyes. Beautiful silken petals, the color of twilight, and deceptively sweet before being deadly. So that's just one example of something that I wrote. So the final writing prompt we're doing is something called a self-portrait poem, and it doesn't have to be a poem, it can be anything, as I've said before. And basically what you do is you take like any object that you could find in your house, or just an object in general, for example like a pillow or like a piece of clothing or, you know, some food. It doesn't really matter, and you kind of convey your personality through that object. You take different characteristics of that object and then you kind of make that into personality traits. And it doesn't have to be about you. It can be about a character that you made up, about someone you know. Just take, like, it's kind of hard to explain, so I hope my example will help you a little bit. You just take different traits of that object and kind of cleverly use them to describe what your personality is like. So I kind of wanted to give you guys an example of what I wrote to better explain what a self-portrait poem is. So here I chose a cup of coffee as my object, and basically what you do is you take different characteristics of that object and turn them into personality traits that you can relate to yourself or someone else. I was worth $3.08, but you wanted to buy me every morning. I was the coppery elixir that satisfied an addiction to time. I was the nectar that humans drank for a sense of false resurrection. But I was scalding. A sleeve of cardboard caution swaddled me and swaddled you. So, if you chose to let me in, you must have waited a while. You didn't put me in the fridge or drop ice cubes in. Some people like it that way, but I ask, what tastes better watered down? What you disregarded the most were the gritty dregs at the bottom of the cup, to be tossed away once you finish drinking and have reaped the rewards. But I needed those sediments, that bitter aftertaste. For before waking you up, I must make you hate the taste enough to desire a second sip. So I hope this gives you an example of kind of how to go about writing this poem. So I hope you guys really enjoyed these prompts and went your own way with them. I hope they sparked some creativity and gave you something to do during the quarantine. At least I hope you got something good out of this. So I just wanted to finish off this masterclass with a few revision tips, that some of them that I have thought of and other things that my poetry teacher gave me. Some of these are like exercises you can do with your poems, and others apply to just pieces in general. So I hope this can help you. So one of them is if you have a poem, for example, your emoji poem or your self-portrait poem, or if you wrote a poem for school or for the Cornell box thing, is reverse the line order of the poem and just kind of see where you go from there. It's really simple. It kind of sounds like it could be like a weird thing to do, but I think it can kind of spark your creativity and make your piece more unique if you just like fully switch every line and literally go from bottom to top. So the second one is kind of just making everything the opposite of what you wrote. So literally, like if you're writing about, this is really simple, but if you're writing about like daytime, you write about nighttime, you know what I mean? Just as an example, just literally write about the opposite of what you intended to write and see where your poem goes from there. And obviously not all of these are going to work out the way you intended to, but hopefully it can give you some, at least a few nice lines that you can put in your piece or put in another piece, or that can inspire you in some way. And the third thing is turning every statement into a question and every question into a statement and changing the tense of some verbs. This is something my poetry teacher recommended, and I thought it's a really cool exercise to kind of spark the creativity in your piece and just like see where it goes from there and experiment with it a little bit. Now this is a more vague thing. This kind of applies to all writing in general, is like think about like the tone of your piece. Like, are you going for a happy tone, a sad tone, an angry tone? And think about your diction. So that's like your word choice. Think about the verbs that you're using for based on the tone of your piece, like, because things can make different noises or look differently or smell differently based on how you want your piece to be conveyed and the mood you want your readers to feel. So for example, my poetry teacher gave the idea of like do cicadas, which are like bugs, sing, hum, buzz, or weep. As you can see, those are like the same thing, but they have a different like feeling when you say them. So if you're like looking for a sadder piece, cicadas weep. If you're looking for a happier piece, cicadas sing. It kind of just depends on what you're trying to go for in your piece, and make sure your word choice reflects that. And so then you can also just, this is something really simple and it especially works for poetry, but just for writing in general, is say your piece out loud. Say it to yourself, say it to an audience, and then you can see kind of what doesn't sound right, if that makes sense. Like what kind of breaks up the rhythm of your piece, so it kind of sounds unnecessary or it sounds like it doesn't fit in, and just cut things out. Sometimes saying your piece out loud can make it clear to you what you couldn't see before as the writer. Kind of as the reader, you can see it from the audience's point of view and how this might seem unnecessary or kind of sound weird. And just cut the fluff. This is not always true, but I think especially for poems, less is often more. Just cut out things that you don't need, cut out words you don't need, try to make it as concise as possible, because sometimes the message comes across better when you don't say everything. And then this applies to everything. It applies to poetry and also fiction, is don't make description everything in your poem, especially in fiction, because like the plot is more important and imagery is definitely important and description is definitely important, but people often get lost. Even when the imagery is especially beautiful, like your readers will get lost with what you're writing if all you have is description and no plot and no action. So I hope these kind of helped you, depending on what you wrote, or if you wrote something outside of school or for these prompts, maybe this can kind of give you an idea of some fun exercises to do. So I just want to say thank you for watching this if you stayed to the end, and I hope this kind of gives you a better idea of what creative writing does and how we go into different mediums and we don't just stick to writing, and how we have all these like different prompts and exercises you can do. And I hope it kind of helps you in any way you can during these tough times. I know it won't change anything, but maybe it can help you cope or find a different way to react to what's happening creatively and in a fun way. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this masterclass.